So we're going behind the scenes and we're going to try and fix a few mistakes. One, I've been talking to you about these jewellery boxes I've been making, and I've told you a little bit about the saga of the broken jewellery box. Well, the internals are still not right. I've hand planed them flush. I've put on, well, I'll tell you about that. That one needs fixing. But the second one that needs fixing is the more pressing one. It's this, the bird saga. Once I've done the box, I'm going to talk you through what I'm going to do to fix this, because there's probably 4 different ways that I could go about it, and they're all from your suggestions on the video, and they're all brilliant, but there can only be one, and it has to work. Let's do the box first as a kind of warm-up, and then get over to this one. Getting a real love-hate relationship with this bird. You'll remember a few weeks ago I told you that I was making these jewellery boxes or trinket boxes for something that wasn't a video, and this one had gone completely off the rails because I'd tried to fit the lid to it sideways, and I had torn apart this inner section. This is just one piece of wood that was glued onto the inside so that the lid could sit over the top of it, holding it nice and snug. And what you want is about 1mm to 2mm of play if you want to get it a nice piston fit, which doesn't really matter, but I wanted that. So I was shaving the sides to get this thinner and thinner so that the lid sat on. Anyway, I was doing the lid the wrong way around. It was never going to fit square. I butchered the inside. My only solution was to either chuck the box away or plane this flush again, which is what I did, and then I glued strips, battens on. You can see that there's a separate line there. I glued battens on, mitered, as carefully as I could to the original shape. So what I was then left with was the refitting job all over again. And in truth, I've done quite a bit of that. I have already sanded and chiseled the sides as very delicately as I can. and you have to be really careful, especially when sanding. I would suggest if you're going to do this and you only want one side to be sanded because you don't want to be attacking the lip here, you just want to be attacking the inner part, glue some sandpaper to a piece of wood, so when you run it on the side, the piece of wood that has no sandpaper on it is running on the bit you don't want it to sand. I start wrapping these around and, well, I think I've got away with it, but we'll see. Now the next issue is each of these battens that I've set on, I set into the right space, or I set in the right position on the outside, because that was the bit I wanted to get the closest, which means they're now a little bit proud on the inside. Now, this is never an easy job because you can't really get a hand plane in there, which is what you normally use, or if you're a power tool person, I guess you could use a router if it was much, much bigger. But anyway, for this, we're struggling a little bit because I think the only thing I can get in there is a very sharp chisel. So what I've gone for is my widest, because I think that'll give me the most control. And I'm going to use it much like a knife. I'm just going to clean the top. Let me just bring you down so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use it a bit like a knife just to carve away the high section. But first, the reason I'm cleaning the top off, which is going to get cleaned anyway, is I want to see the grain direction, which on this Sapele is almost impossible. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to be carving with the chisel down through the bit that's proud, hopefully till it's flush with the bit underneath. And I'm going to start at the back here because the grain direction is coming off like this into the box. So I feel very safe taking it off without thinking that I'm going to run into the piece and take too much off. So I'll start at the back. Now I'm going to clamp this finger against the box and this finger against the chisel, and the chisel blade is always going to be ahead of this back finger, so I can't suddenly slip and take a chunk out myself. And I'm just going to work my way across, carving off the bits that are proud. And I'm not just shoving into it. Oh, took a bit. Not just shoving in. I'm kind of angling. So I'm cutting with the chisel. And I'm just being careful when I hit that end because I don't want to jab the chisel into it. I've got a lot of meat to take off. And if that's the case, you can risk taking thicker shavings. But the thicker the shaving, the more likelihood there is of getting a tear out, in my opinion, or in my experience, for what that's worth. So taking your time and taking thinner shavings, I think it's going to get you a better result. But you'll probably never be in this situation that I'm in, hopefully, where you've rushed a job. Let me get a bit more light on there. And it's led to a cover-up, which this absolutely is. But if you don't, I make enough mistakes that hopefully I'm getting pretty good at covering them. We'll see the results of this, because this box has become a mission. It's become my, I don't know if white whale's a bit too dramatic, but it's been sat looking at me in my workshop for about 3 months now, since I started filming for all of these boxes. And this one is all that's holding me back finishing. So, here we are. You can feel, or you can see that I'm feeling, because it is the most sensitive tool that you have pretty much at your disposal in this, is your finger. So I'm just feeling to see where it's proud. And I'm just working it away and working backwards now. So I start further back each time, so I can then smooth off and cover my own tracks from the last bit that I've gouged, hopefully. And it's really important to get that clamped, because you don't want to be starting to twist either. You want to keep, eventually this bottom piece should be your reference. And you have to come in quite steep at the back here, because this is in the way now. And because of the grain direction, ideally going this way, I want to do as little as possible. But eventually I will have to do something. Okay. We're pretty smooth here. A bit of glue line there, which is pretty telltale. Now this is backward hands, and I don't think this is the way you do it. You'd normally move your clamps, get a different angle at this, but I've got the camera set up. And if you overrun into this side and chisel into it a little bit like that, you can always chamfer the inside edge, this bit, because that will then hide it again. I'm going to wait to see how many mistakes I make before I make a decision on that. Right, that's ready for just sanding now. That is about as hidden as that line is ever going to get across here. You will probably still be able to see it, but eventually I'm just going to go through the grits on the inside and just very carefully, because I don't need to sand all of it because that was done before we put it together, but I'm just going to very carefully sand the line, and then I'm going to do a couple of swipes on the inner edge just to take off the sharpness. And I'm going to do that for all 4 sides, then I'm going to clean it up and we can have a look at what it looks like, see if the lid actually sits. On a completely separate note, if you've made a box like this, which is a wonderful way of making a box, because if you get the outer bit square, then putting these pieces of wood on the inner bit to hold the lid, if you do this and you are pretty sure you've got the tightest fit without it being, I bet you that's on the wrong way around. If you're pretty sure you've got the tightest fit without, you see there, nice, it's not quite a piston, but now is the time to consider what finish you're putting on, because if you're putting a wax finish on, that's only going to help this. But if you're putting lacquer or varnish or something that sits on the surface and technically is another layer, you have to really account for that in your calculations. I've probably got no movement that way, and about 1/2 mil that way, which for me is fine for oil or wax, not for lacquer. That'll stick with lacquer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a finish sand with 180 after I've done all of the sides, so then I can try the lid again and hopefully that'll be absolutely perfect. But I'm going to go and finish this chisel work and then I'll come back to you and show you results, and you can tell me, I'll get close-ups of those lines to see if that's actually done a good job. Really hoping this is going to be a fix, but we'll see. The inside has been sanded and I've done all the edges. I haven't done the outside yet, and before I do that, I just want to show you how it looks now that I've given it a bit of effort. And I promise you, all I've done is the chisel work you saw me do, some hand sanding, and a tiny bit of card scraping where I got some tear out. Apart from that, nothing else. Quite happy with the way this has come out. Let me turn you around. And I'm trying to get you as close as possible so you can truly see. And in fact, let me get you another light on this because I reckon that might help. Now, the line is about there. I think you can see the dark bit of the glue there. Show you another side. I've done nothing random here, or rather I am doing it random. There's a few blemishes there where I've got some tear out that I haven't fully fixed, which I think you can see. It really bugs me, but this is a display box. This isn't actually going to be sold or given to anybody. And I think the grain pattern gives it away a little bit there. But the bit people are going to see, the outside of this box, right? When you put the lid on here, I don't think you can tell that that is a separate piece of wood, that that is a fix. And I've marked it. Look at that. Got me a little dowel in there that needs sanding, so that now I won't put the lid back on the wrong way around. Now, let me turn you back round. Last job. I'm going to get the I'm going to get the random orbital sander out. I'm going to, now a little tip, if you're going to do boxes like this, don't sand them separately. I'm now going to lock the box together because there's not enough play that I need to tape it down or anything like that. And it sits quite nicely. Couple of things. I'm going to sand it as one because then anything I take off this will come off that. One of the other boxes that I did for this set of boxes, I didn't do that. And I took a bit more off the bottom than the top, and you can tell it's fine, but still, I'm starting to lacquer the whole of this, so I don't need to worry too much about covering the lid when I oil it. Anyway, you don't need to know that. I'm just going to sand it And then I'm going to, it's another little tip, if you haven't got the line that you perfectly want when you're doing the box like this, and I don't mind mine, it's not bad at all, but if you don't like it, give it a light chamfer, create a shadow and lean into it, and that'll sort that out. You won't hide it that way, but you will make it look like it's deliberate. So, mask back on, sanding. I'm going to put the finish on it, and then I'll show you the finished product. And then, well, then we need to fix that bird. It's not over yet. Oh, but you don't need to watch me sand. So I'll come back after that. And so, here it is with finish on it. I've done around about 5 coats of lacquer on this, and I did a denibbing after the last coat. I realised I left the bottom a little rough, but the sides and the top are smooth like glass. Now I love an oil finish, but I have to say, there's something really nice about lacquer. Right, matching up the brass pins. This, I haven't tried this, I promise you, I have not tried this since putting the finish on it. And I'm really hoping that this works and that I haven't made it too... Oh, that's nice. That, I think we pulled this one out of the fire here, because the movement on this, let me just bring you up super close. I'm holding the box steady. No movement on the top. Oh, I've got like a mil. What that means is, as proud of myself as I am right now, that's probably going to stick together at some stage, isn't it? If one expands a little bit and the other doesn't, or something like that. Look at that grain wrap. Ah, I am not one for tooting my own trumpet here, but that's come out all right. Now for the inside, for the bit that was the fix, let's just quickly show you. After it's got finish on it, I'll get as much good light as I can on this. Come on. These are the join lines. So there's quite a distinct grain pattern on the second piece, on the bottom piece, and straight line on the top. So that one shows, but minimally. Look at that. If I was just showing you one to persuade you that what I've done is a good fix, I reckon I'd show you that side. Now the grains go away from each other a bit there, so if you did inspect it, that's not perfect. This, again, has some of that really cool but grain from a knot or something on the bottom, and then a few burly bits on the top one. Yeah, you know, that's all right. And around the top lip, I don't even think you'd realise that I've had to fudge that. So, from a box that was going in the bin to, don't tell the other boxes, but what could be my favourite box of the 3, mainly because of the lid. I really like that. I'm chuffed with that. We've put out one fire. Now, this fella. This has to be a Christmas present given around the 20th. It is now around the 10th, I think. 7th maybe. Anyway, I've got an idea for this. What I need, and this was suggested by one of you guys, I need to strengthen the back here by doing some sort of plumage. So if you think where I've blocked with my finger there, the inner bit would be dark wood. Problem is, getting this contour absolutely matching all the way along is tricky. And I'm not really sure how much I want to thicken out this part and this part here. So I have a choice. Either have a dark piece of wood starting here, finishing here in like a crescent, and that will give it the strength because it will be glued all the way along. So the strength of moving the head that way, compressing if you like, will be taken away. The other option is I cut this knobbly bit off the back and then make the knobbly bit and the extension out of one piece of wood. Neither one is easy, but at least with this I could trace the inner bit. So what I think I'm going to do, and I'm thinking on the fly here, I'm going to try and cut the piece of wood that would go in here. Now, what's going to make this extra tricky is the fact that I've not only got to match the semicircle here, but I've also got to match the angle of this. And that's where it might get a bit squirrely. But the only way to know is to try it once and to see if it works. And if if it needs a lot of work, then it's not going to be doable. But if it's close, I might be able to get it there. So let's fix the bird. Damn you, bird. I've got the best preparation in possible for doing this. It's 6 o'clock in the evening. I've had a full day on the computer. I'm completely numb up top. What could possibly go wrong? You see, here's the thing. I've got to the stage where I've left this so late because I've been too nervous to attack it that now I have to. And I reckon I've got an hour now, maybe an hour another day. So, you guys were brilliant. You guys gave me so many good ideas for this. One was one I was considering, which was the brass rod. Drill a hole, brass rod through the neck of the bird. However, a few people were just as clever and said, why not drill down and then just leave the drill bit in and just epoxy around it? That's quite clever. Make your own dowel in a way. The other idea I had was fill this void between the tool and the head with epoxy. I don't think that's going to work. Another idea I had was to cut this back plumage off and make a new plumage that's thicker onto the neck. It's risky because I don't know what it'll look like, and I've actually then cut into the bird. I know I'm making a dog's dinner of this, a right meal of it, but this matters. Other things don't. You know, you break a coaster or you break... This was... There's so much has gone into this. The grandfather's tool, the grandfather's tool, the design was done by my wife, that matters, and the thought I've given to it for a person that's part of the family, my mother-in-law, this is the gift. This has to work. So, I don't want to attack the bird itself. And then, I think it was Mo, I hope I've got your name right there, you came to me and said, why don't you put an inlay piece on the back here? And a few of you said this, fair enough, this just that this was the first one that said it to me. And you got me thinking, you basically, yeah, I could make an extra plumage on the back, just a semicircle here, and that, if I can, I mean, it has its issues because I've got to glue it onto the full interior of the neck. It doesn't have to be massive. A little half crescent would do it. Just enough to thicken this out and to stop it moving and flexing along these fibres. Somebody said to me in the video that I've got the grain direction wrong, which I don't know. The grain direction goes this way, the way you see the pencil. I think that's the strongest grain direction, right? Anyway, maybe it is a little bit off skew. Maybe it could be straighter. Anyway, I'm going to put some straight grain sapele down the back here. And the thickness of the neck is probably about 14 mil, I'd say. I'm not going to make it that thick because my other issue here is not only fitting it to the crescent, I've got to fit it to the camber of the back as well, which is quite rounded from sanding. So the stages are going to be, I'm going to sand it, I'm going to trace it, I'm going to trim the card till it fits, I'm going to put the card onto a piece of wood, cut it, put the piece of wood into there, sand it to fit, glue it all into place, and hope that it doesn't look crap. I'm going to take you along the journey, and like with the box, fast forward through, there's going to be some ASMR listening and doing bits, and then I'll do some talking. So I'll put some timestamps on the screen of where you can fast forward. So, first job is to sand this. Oh yeah, fun as well that because it's fully glued into the base, how the hell do you actually, how do I clamp it? I think the first thing is to lose the pincers. At least they're not actually fixed in. Let's just do it. Let's just give it a shot. I mean, sure, when you look at it like that, you can see there's very little meat there. Should have seen that coming. Right, let's get some 80 grit sandpaper. Most of what I'm doing to start with is just to get rid of all the old oil that I put on this to finish it. Most of it's gone because I sanded over the glue joint. But worst case scenario is that I make the piece that goes in and then suddenly I can't glue it because it won't take. Oh, I've sanded this thing so many times. and all I'm doing is making it thinner. Well, that's got all of the oil off, I think. Don't actually know how far the plumage is going to go. So, now, let's trace it a bit. Fortunately, I can get the card in so it runs down his back here. So I reckon now I probably think I'm going to need 2 or 3 shots at this, but so I might do. Get my scissors. Do 2 shots at once. Right. See what we can do with this. Let's try the first one. Well, I reckon if I got a piece of wood close to this, I'm going to be fairly close to getting it right. I've got to go all hand tools because my neighbours will kill me if I start getting out a table saw. Let me just find a piece of wood for this with some nice straight grain. So I've got some old offcuts from a box. I'm just going to get my orientation right here because I think I want the grain to run that way. So I'm just going to, I don't know, I think we just send it, as John Malecki would say, and just see what happens. You know, you think I'm talking just because the camera's on, but I have to say, even if I'm making something on my own, it's pretty much what I'm doing. Talking to myself, trying not to disagree with myself. I'm going to cut out the outline here and then I'm going to feed it onto the bird before I figure out what the back section is going to do. I think it's time to get the vise out and coping saw. I don't really trust that to give me a decent finish, and I don't know how flat this is. Let's just send it again. Let's get it out. I have the single worst, cheapest coping saw. Fret saw, coping saw. Whatever. It's the worst one though. Let's just see what happens. Probably quite a good job you can't see where the line is from your side. Right, the line disappeared there. That doesn't bode well. Okay. We aren't even hoping at this stage, just so you know. It's not even hoping. Okay, we've got gaps. We knew we'd have gaps. So, we need to file into the gaps, try it on the bird, file, trial, file, trial, file, trial. What are we going to use? Oh, I wonder. One of those. One of those. But maybe, just maybe, I wonder. Other way. What I'm doing here is trying to use the chisel so that I get as flat an edge as I possibly can, and then to try and stop it going in that sort of direction, because a file, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to end up taking off everything at an angle, and I'm just going to try and I'm trying to bottom out some of these high spots. I think I need to lose all of that. So hopefully with a chisel I'm not going to put any cambers on it. And the reason I've got this small chisel is because I'm pretty sure it might be the sharpest chisel I've got left, because I haven't sharpened any chisels in a while. And that's where we're at. Help get it inside that curve of the neck and we can see really what we're working with. I think we need to go a bit further. I don't think we're going to use any bit of this, but if I lose it, I've got so little bit such a small block of wood, I'm just going to end up struggling. So let's take it off completely. Oh, that is a pleasure. I'm going to really enjoy sticking that into my finger because I'm so tired later on. Ah, come on. So we've figured that bit out. I think we need to take stuff off the top now. Which way are we going to... Don't know. That's into the grain. Let's try going the other way. Let's try just a little... We're not much closer. I think I need to round this out. Let's mark it a bit. So I need to round this out into his back. Her back, his back. And I need to take some off here. May as well clean a bit up while I'm at it. Figure if I thin out the top and the bottom, and so it goes in and it hits the back here, surely if I then just take bits off this evenly, it'll gradually get flush. You know, if you're bored, feel free to fast forward to the bit where it actually gets exciting. I don't know when that is. I'll be able to tell you in the edit. Hopefully it's on the screen. I think it's going to be about as how close do you accept? Because I can see daylight. I don't want to see daylight. I mean, it looks like he's carrying a rucksack right now. I'm not sure that's the look I'm going for. Okay, here's the situation. I've got it close. I've got two choices. I can either glue it in. I'll shape it first, glue it in, and be done with it. And there'll be gaps. But if I use the thick and quick, the gaps will hide. Or this is stupid. This is everything that I said I wouldn't do. Or I can score down the sides of it. I can take a small chisel. I can gouge out around about 2 millimeters, and then I can sink this in. So it will in effect hide any gaps, albeit there'll be gaps on the other side, but most people are going to look at the side, in my opinion. I don't think I fancy doing that, but let's shape this first. So I'm thinking of literally just slicing out enough to hold it, but not enough that it looks clunky. So like a half crescent. All this work we've done on this big block of wood, and I'm literally just going to take this crescent shape out, so it'd be like a dark plumage on his back. Cut it, glue it, see where we're at. You want to see erring on the side of caution? I didn't even get close to the line. Not even scaring the line. I really wanted to see what it would look like before I made a big old commitment. What do we think? Oh, I think that I think that makes him look quite majestic. Do we really need to inlay it? I mean, we're strengthening it. We're filling gaps. We're being kind to ourselves, hopefully. You know what? I'm going to sand the sides like that. I'm going to sand the back, which is nicely a lot of end grain, which is wonderful. And then we're going to come in with a final decision. Okay, it's been sanded. There's areas on this that I'm not happy with. I'll be honest, the back here, it doesn't, I was hoping it would blend, and down the spine as well. It's okay. I mean, I broke the bird at the end of the day. What can I possibly expect? My own fault. I'm really pushing my luck if I go any further. Do you know what? I'm going to glue that in. I reckon I can put a clamp right where my fingers are. Let's clean her up, put some glue on her. I'll show you in a sec. Oh, you're going to laugh when I call this a saga. I have literally I've been manhandling this, and it's got wax on it, wax. It's got wax finish on it. And I've got dust of sapele all over my hands. So instead of a white head now, this thing's gone ginger. Every little pore has got grubbiness in it. Oh my goodness. So, I'm not doing it now, but once I've glued this piece in, I've now got to give it an entire sand and then re-wax it, because otherwise I've just made a ginger bird. That's supposed to be sycamore. I don't know if you can see it on this, but that is a white wood turned brown by brown sawdust. Too tired for this now. Let's just send it. I'm being a wally. It's just a bird. It's just a bird. I did not think this through. Oh my gosh, so much squeeze out. Folks, I did not think this through. I'm always giving advice on woodworking. I'm always saying, plan your positions for your clamps. I did not. Struggling to clamp it. Thick and quick is going off. Squeeze out is everywhere. It is not a very good joint. I can see glue at the top. But for now, best I can do is leave them overnight and see if that is at least strong enough. I've then just got to sand the whole bird. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day, and well, you can tell that because I've got a different t-shirt on. That I do that most days. Now, this fix looks pretty good. There is a gap. I knew I wouldn't fit it perfectly, but I think there's enough glue in that gap for me not to have to be concerned, because now when I press the back of his head in either direction, it's this bottom bit that it's moving. So the pressure is being taken on the stem rather than on his neck. I'm going to give myself a break, and I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why. One, I don't think anybody is going to come and check whether I've got decent surface-to-surface contact on his plume. I don't think anybody's going to get that close. I think they're just going to see it from afar and go, oh, that's nice, or they're going to say, oh, that's going to take someone's eye out at some stage. That's it. They're probably the two thoughts of anybody that's going to walk into a room with this bird. This is the last time you'll see him like this. The next time you'll see him, he'll be finished. He spins as well. For goodness sake. It's not a design. Okay, last inspection before this gets wrapped up and goes into whatever I'm going to package it in to send it. A few changes were made on the fly that you're not going to see, I don't think, unless I give you a close-up. So let me give you a close-up while I tell you. This bird, let me flip you around, took a few changes during the finishing process. This is still waxed because I think it gives it a nice dim, dull, satiny look, but the bird now is lacquered. I just thought that if I was going to spend all this time sanding it again and again and again, that maybe it's going to last a little bit better where it lives with a nice shiny wipe the dust off finish. I've got a fix. Oh yeah, strength. Let's see. See, he's all bending from the base. There's no bend on this neck now. I'm not going to go and wrench it around too much, admittedly. Let me actually, you know what? Let's give him a bit of a test. Nothing. And I think it looks good. For everybody that said nice things about this, has offered advice on this, and has followed along with this saga, thank you very much. This bird is now ready to fly. I really hope my mother-in-law likes it. She will never see this saga. She'll never know about it, and I'll never tell her. This is between us. So, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that it's shown you something that I haven't shown you, so I hope you will read between the lines. Don't put as much pressure on yourself as I've put on myself with this, because it takes all of the fun out of the build. And as I keep saying to people, don't show your mistakes. Don't stress over things like that. Don't fret over it, because you can fix it. 9 times out of 10 you can fix it, or you have to start again. For this, I've learned some lessons along the way about me and about how I make stuff, and how I need to probably follow some of my own advice a little bit, I've got to say, and go a little bit easier on myself. Have a lovely holiday period. I'm going to say this a huge amount of times because I never know which is the last video I'm going to publish before Christmas. But whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, enjoy it. Now, everybody out there is saying be kind to others, and I fully agree. But I also say be kind to yourself. God, I love this bird. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.